Midtown Manhattan, and I'm really excited to bring you this 25-minute flow. The title of this flow is Stop Faking It. And what we're going to do in this next 25 minutes is just let our masks off, stop trying to impress each other or ourselves, and just be us. Let God speak to us right now as we are, and I think He's got something really great that He wants to say to you. So when I sat down to design this class here, I really wanted it to be something fun and creative and engaging. So it moves kind of quickly, and there might be some challenging poses in it, but can I just encourage you to keep going with it? To not get frustrated or distracted if you fall behind or feel like you're sort of in over your head. Just keep breathing. You can always come down to child's pose if it gets too difficult, but just have fun, right? This practice here that we're doing, it's just fun. So hit play on your favorite playlist if you have one. Music is a great way to engage with what you're doing on your mat. If you don't have some favorite music, go to Spotify, check out my channel, Caroline Williams. There's a 25-minute playlist on there called Stop Faking It. It's designed just for this class. So let's put some music on and let's do some yoga.
Come to child's pose. Your knees spread out wide, your belly sinking in between your knees. Your arms stretched out in front of you, just surrendered in this pose. Begin to notice your breathing. Notice if it's nourishing you or if it's not. If it's not nourishing you, see if you can deepen it a little bit. Feeling your belly expand and your ribs expand as you breathe. Sometimes when we get stressed or distracted or anxious, we bottle all of our breath up in our chest, and we just take lots of short and shallow breaths. So see if you can send that breath down your body so that it fills your entire top half. It's easy to think of yoga as a tool just for self-improvement, improving our bodies or improving our stress levels, and we hold in one hand this ideal version of ourselves, right? Perfectly sculpted and totally relaxed and 100% and always beautiful Caroline. And then on the other hand, there's the right now Caroline, which is none of those things and always needs to be doing better. But can I just challenge us in that today, friends, and say that we don't need more tools for self-improvement. We just need Jesus. One of my favorite authors, Bob Goff, says it this way: God isn't going to like us more if we fake it. So God, thank you that you don't place a heavy burden of perfection or performance on us. Thank you that we're clothed in righteousness and delighted in by an absolutely adoring Father. Help us all to just drop our masks on our mats today and leave them there. In Jesus' name, amen. Begin to press your hands into the mat, spreading your fingers wide. And as you press into them, straighten your arms, tuck your toes under, and slowly begin to lift your knees off the mat just a little bit, coming into a puppy dog pose here. So we're feeling a lot of the same sensations as we do in downward facing dog, right? We're plugging our shoulders back into our spine so our heart's open. We're lifting our hips to the ceiling even though they're still close to the ground. We're strengthening through the core, lengthening through the spine. And now very slowly begin to straighten your legs one at a time and really grow long through your spine and up through your hips. So you feel this lift as well as this length. Pedal your heels here, sway your hips back and forth. Begin to just get into your body. See how it's feeling. See how you're feeling today. Not judging or coming up with a list of things that you need to improve on or work on today, but just accepting where you are and understanding that God accepts you just as you are in this moment, regardless of whether you ever improve or not. We're going to jump right into it today, so lift your left leg high. Reach it all the way to the back of the room so you feel a long line of energy all through your body. Roll your ankle here back and forth, forward and back. Point and flex your toes. Begin to waken up every single piece of our body here. Now take that left leg, come forward on your hands just a little bit into sort of a plank pose, and kick that left leg underneath your body, coming into fallen triangle, lifting your right arm up and back, opening the front side of your body towards heaven. Really engage that left foot there, just like we did a moment ago. Gorgeous. Come back to center, placing your right hand down on the mat, lifting that left leg back up to the ceiling, and then step it between your hands and coming up to rise in the high lunge. So your back knee can be lifted or it can be bent, resting on your knee if you'd like. But wherever you are, just sinking into that hip, finding openness, not arching your back, so maintaining a tailbone that keeps pointing towards the floor, so there's length through your spine, but you're feeling that deep stretch. Breathe into those tight places, honoring and understanding where they are, not necessarily racing to improve them or critiquing yourself because you're always so tight in the hips. We all are. It's part of the journey. You don't need to fake it here. Beautiful. With your left leg forward, we're going to take a gentle twist here. So twist your right arm to the back of the room, your left fingertips forward. Good. Come back to center. We're going to do this twice more. Inhale here, and then exhale, twist. Left arm back, right arm forward. One more time, back to center. Big inhale, the center, and then as you exhale, twist over to the left side. Gorgeous. Coming back up to center, we're going to press, root down into our left foot here as we lift our right foot up, bring it to meet our left foot at the front of our mat, and sink straight into our chair pose here. So send your hips back, the weight is in your heels, your tailbone's pointing down towards the mat, but you're lifting and opening through the chest. Breathing here. Can you sink a couple inches deeper? Gorgeous. And slowly release, folding over those legs and hanging in a forward fold here. We got our heart rate out. We've got our blood pumping. So let's see if we can make some more space as we hang in forward fold here. On a big inhale, we're rooting down to rise all the way up. Stretch your arms overhead. Bring your palms to touch. Draw them down to your heart center. Inhale, sweep those arms up overhead and then dive all the way down back into your forward fold. An inhale brings you halfway up, lengthening your spine forward. Then place those hands down on the mat, step one foot back and then the other, lowering halfway or all the way down, coming up to rise in a cobra or upward facing dog. And then on an exhale, pressing back and up to your downward facing dog. Pedaling your heels out here, seeing how you feel a little bit different, a little bit more open maybe, or maybe you feel the same, and that's all right too. And your next inhale, extend your right leg up and back. Again, rolling the ankle on this side, pointing and flexing your toes, giving your feet some love here. Great, and then bending that knee into your chest, come forward into a plank pose, but then kick that right foot underneath your body over to the left side of the mat, lifting your left arm up and back, opening up into fallen triangle here. Really engaging through the feet, finding lift through your core, smiling at the joy of the practice. Coming back to center, return your left arm down to the mat. Bring your right leg up and back one more time. And then step it between your hands, coming up to rise in your high lunge on the right side. Again, this pose doesn't have to be static. There can be movement here as you find what feels good, as you slowly ease into those tight places. Just like we did on the left side, we're going to take some twists on this right side. So on a big inhale, lengthen up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, stretch your right arm back, your left fingertips forward, twisting gently here in this high lunge. Good, and inhale brings you back to center. And then on an exhale, twisting again. See if you can try and keep that right knee along the center line of your body, not letting it splay out over to the right side. Coming back to center one last time. Inhale in the center. Exhale to twist. Fantastic. Coming back to center, really root down on that right leg, and we're going to step our left leg up to meet our right, sinking straight into our chair pose here. Our hips are back, we're heavy in our heels, but we're light in our upper body. We're drawing our shoulders down away from our ears, and we're breathing deeply here. We're not faking it, we're finding our edge, and we're breathing into it, rejoicing in it. So good. On your next inhale, I want you to release and fold all the way over, hanging into a forward fold here. We're going to take that same twist that we just did in our high lunge here in this forward fold. So place your right hand down on the mat, bend your left knee, and twist open to the left side. Finding a deep, yummy stretch all along our IT band here. Good. Come back to center and just switch sides. Left hand down to the mat. Left knee bent, right arm up to the ceiling, twisting here. Feeling that deep, juicy stretch. Good. Coming back to center. On an inhale, root down to rise all the way up, arms sweeping overhead and then drawing them down to your heart. Inhaling them back over your head, this time diving all the way down, hanging in your forward fold. On an inhale, we're lifting halfway up, lengthening our spine forward. Exhale, folding forward, placing our hands, stepping them back to plank pose, lowering halfway or all the way down to cobra, upward facing dog, and then back to downward facing dog. Taking 3 deep, nourishing breaths here. Matthew 11:30. In Matthew 11:30, Jesus says this: "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." So friends, if you're carrying something heavy today, let it go, because that's not from the Father. You don't have to fake it like you got it all together. There's no faking it till you make it in this walk of life with the King. We throw off whatever hinders us so we can run the race set before us. Let's take the sequence that we just did and add on a little bit to it. So inhale, lift your left leg high. Exhale, step it forward, coming up to rise in your high lunge. Breathing here, sinking deeper here, finding more space here. And then on inhale, pressing into that left foot, step your right to meet your left, sitting down into your chair pose. Can you sink a couple inches deeper here? Tucking that tailbone down to the earth, but lengthening through your heart. The crown of your head reaching the ceiling. Gorgeous. And then lift that right leg up, staying in your chair pose. And we're going to cross it over our left leg, coming into eagle pose. So your left leg goes over your right. Maybe your foot hooks around your calf. And your left arm is going to cross underneath your right arm, intertwining your arms here. We're twisting ourselves all up to help find release. So as you sink into this chair, as you hug everything towards the midline of your body, I want you to breathe into that tightness. Press into that constriction. But continue to lengthen, right? So you're sinking low through your hips. But see if you can lift your elbows up and away from your spine, finding a stretch along your back and length through your spine. So good. Slowly begin to unwind. But don't place that right leg down just yet. We're going to hug that right knee into our chest. And then place that right foot on the inner thigh of our left leg, coming into tree pose. If this isn't accessible for you, no problem. You can take that right foot, put your toes on the mat and play with your balance there. You can bring it to your low calf. Just don't stick it on the inside of your knee, because we don't want to hurt our knee. But wherever you are in your tree pose, finding stillness, finding balance, finding calm and peace and surrender. There's no faking balance, right? It's pretty clear when you're off balance. So go with it. Be okay with it. All right, our left legs are burning. So let's release our right leg down to the mat. Standing on both feet. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead. Exhale, dive forward, hanging in a forward fold here. An inhale brings us halfway up, lengthening our spine, and an exhale folds us back down. Let's go through our flow one more time. You can always skip this and go straight to downward facing dog. Otherwise, lower to chaturanga, lift up into upward dog, press back to downward facing dog. On your next inhale, sweep your right leg up to the ceiling. And then as you exhale, step it forward between your hands, rising all the way up into your high lunge. Bending that back knee as much as you need to so that you can maintain a long spine with your tailbone reaching towards the mat, but your heart reaching towards the heavens. So beautiful. Press into that right leg. Step your left leg up to meet your right and sink straight down into your chair pose here. Your chair doesn't have to be a stiff chair if you don't want it to be. It can be a plushy one. You can move around as it feels good. But seeing if you can sink a couple inches deeper wherever you are, sending your breath, using your breath as fuel for this movement. All right, this time we're going to root down into our right leg, lift our left leg up and cross it over our right, maybe even hooking our left toes around our right calf. Sending our right arm underneath our left, intertwining our arms, and lifting our elbows up and away so we feel a stretch in our shoulder blades as we press our arms together, pressing our legs together all along the center line of our body, but continuing to sink deep into this chair pose here. We're wrapping it all up, squeezing it all together, pressing it all in so that we can feel the freedom of the release. In 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Unwind, but don't let that left foot touch the mat yet. We're going to come into our tree pose. So bringing that left foot onto your inner calf of your right leg or the inner thigh of your right leg. And finding stillness and balance here as much as is possible. Your hands can come to your heart, or you can lift them overhead. If you'd like to make it even more difficult, you can play with closing your eyes and really beginning to feel the sensation in your body of what it feels like to balance, to have faith without seeing. So good. Let's release that left leg on an inhale. Sweep your arms up overhead. And exhale, dive all the way down, hanging here in forward fold. We're going to take our left foot here and step it to the back of our mat, but let's pivot our toes to face the left edge of our mat. So we're coming into a wide-legged forward fold here. You can bend one knee and the other, making some space in your hips, because it's about to get real juicy here. What I want you to do is point your toes to the outer edges of your mat. So your feet are sort of parallel to the long edge of your mat, and your toes are both pointing to the short ends of your mat. And we're going to come into what's called goddess pose. So slowly begin to rise up here as you sink your hips down, seeing if you can create some 90-degree angles in both of your knees here. This is a pretty intense pose. So take it slowly, take it gently. Use plenty of breath to fuel your movement. You can bring your hands to your hips. You can bring your hands to your hearts. But wherever you are, finding breath. Not trying to make your practice look like anybody else's, but honoring where your practice is right now. All right, let's turn it up one more notch. Are you ready for this? We're going to do eagle arms in this goddess pose here. So take your right arm, sweep it onto your left arm, intertwine your forearms, and hang out here. Can you lift those elbows? Can you feel that stretch in between your shoulder blades? Can you breathe here? You've got this. We're going to crank it up one more notch here. We're going to lower our fingers down to the mat and see if we can just touch them down to the floor. So using your breath, slowly begin to fold your upper body down to the floor, scraping the mat with your fingertips and then slowly coming all the way back up. Can you do this 2 more times on your own breath? So beautiful. You're building strength here. This requires so much core strength, so much inner thigh strength, leg strength, and focus and determination. Beautiful job. After 3, let's unwind our arms, sweep them up overhead here, and then point our toes back forward to the long edge of our mat and fold all the way back over into a wide-legged forward fold. Great job. Let's pivot our toes over to the front short edge of our mat, taking our torso and folding it over that right leg. Let's heel toe that right foot over to the right edge of our mat, and we're going to sink down here into lizard pose, getting even deeper into our hips here. So let's lower that left back knee down onto the mat. And if this feels like woo for you, stay right here. This is a super challenging pose for me, and most days this is about as far as I get. If you're like, I got tons more space, let's do this, you can slowly begin to lower your forearms down onto the mat, sinking into that right hip there, breathing into those tight spaces. Good. Let's roll onto the outside edge of that right foot and take it a little bit deeper. This might make it a little bit more accessible for a lot of people. I know it does for me. Making more room in that hip, but being really gentle, right? Not forcing it, but honoring where we are. So good. If you're feeling like you want a little quad stretch here, why don't you bend that left knee and see with your left arm if you can reach back and grab that left foot. You'll get a beautiful quad stretch here, a beautiful stretch in your hip flexor, but also a really juicy opening across your heart. So gorgeous. All right, if you grab that back foot, let's slowly release it. Those of us in lizard, let's slowly crawl our way back up to center, straightening that right leg, pivoting our back to a wide-legged forward fold, and we're just going to pivot straight over to the left side. So taking your fingertips, framing your left foot with them, your right toe, you're on the balls of the back of your right foot, and let's lower that right knee down to the mat, heel toeing your left foot out to the edge of your mat, and sinking into our lizard pose here. Sinking can be just staying here and breathing, or lowering down onto one forearm. Sending your breath wherever you are. Gorgeous. Maybe you want to take it a little bit deeper. Roll onto the outside edge of that left foot, opening that knee up. And then maybe bending that right knee, reaching back with your right hand to grab the inner edge of that back right foot for a juicy heart opener and a quad stretch. We can let go of that perfect version of ourselves and honor and accept the version of ourselves that's right here, right now in this moment, the one that God delights in. Slowly begin to release that right foot if you have it. Draw your left knee back up into the center of your body. And then pressing both hands into the mat, we're going to step that left leg back to meet our right, coming into a plank pose. And then bending our knees, let's lower down into child's pose. Taking some deep breaths here. We're going to press up into downward facing dog, but just so that we can get into one of my favorite stretches ever, my favorite poses, and that is pigeon pose. So let's press our fingers into the mat, lift our hips back up to the ceiling. Very, very gently, let's lift our right leg up, and then bend that knee, draw it into the center line of your body, and then bring your right knee over to your right elbow and begin to lay that right shin down onto the mat, sinking down onto the floor, onto your hips here. Now, if this isn't accessible for you, that's no problem. What I want you to do instead is to roll onto your back, Cross your right ankle over your left knee and draw that left knee into your body here. You're going to get the exact same kind of stretch, but just on your back in a figure 4 pose. For those of us in pigeon here, I really want us to think about squaring off your hips before we fold over. So we're not collapsing onto our right hip here, but our right hip is a little bit lifted off the mat and our hips are square forward. Inhale to lengthen up and find some lift. And then as you exhale, slowly begin to lower yourself down onto the mat. Using so much breath here as we wade through some really sticky, tight places in our body. So Matthew 11:30, Jesus says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." A yoke is a wooden device that joins 2 oxen or cattle together as they pull a heavy load behind them. Now, a yoke is super important because without it, the cattle would just go off and do their own thing. So the yoke joins them together. However, it also forces the animals to go at the same pace. They have to be in sync. When they're in sync, then the heaviness of the load doesn't matter. They're just pulling each equally their own weight and it's not burdensome. If one of the ox tries to pull ahead of the other or sinks behind, the weight is unevenly distributed and it becomes an impossible burden for just one of these animals to carry. So when Jesus says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light," what he's saying to us here is, don't go running ahead of me, or don't fall back behind me so that you think that I'm off there on my own without you. But when we walk together in sync, when you're not faking it, when you are real with who you are right now, understand that I love you who you are right now, the yoke will be easy and the burden will be light. Let's slowly begin to push ourselves back up, pressing our hands into the mat, stretching that right leg up behind us in a downward facing dog just to wiggle out that hip. So bend your right knee, draw circles with it, do what you have to do to just find some space and openness after all that stretching. When you're ready, lower that right foot down to the mat and lift your left leg up to the ceiling. Bend that knee, come forward. Draw that left knee over to your left elbow and rest your shin down onto the mat, sinking down into pigeon pose on this side. Again, before we fold over, let's lengthen. So lifting up, our hips are square, and then gently and slowly finding where our edge is, let's fold forward. If you're on your back here, you're just switching legs. One commentary I read said this: a properly fitting yoke will not produce any discomfort or cause sores to form, but will allow the animal to work at its full potential. Of course, the yoke does not take away the work, but it aids the animal in performing the task. So when Jesus says, "My yoke is easy and burden is light," he's not saying, "Great, you're free. All your problems are gone. You're a perfect person." There's still work to do. But when that yoke is evenly distributed, it allows us to work to our full potential. When we're pulling ahead of God, when we're trying to pull God back, we're not living at our full potential. We're heavily burdened. We're dragged down. We're trying to be somebody that we're not. But when that yoke is evenly distributed, when we're walking in sync with God, when we take on His burden, His yoke, which says, "I love you just as you are. I delight in you just as you are. I have good things for you. Open yourself up to me and watch what I will do." As we submit ourselves to that truth, to that identity, walk in sync with what God says about us now and tomorrow and yesterday, we find that we can live up to our full potential. And that's such a beautiful thing, right? Slowly begin to press yourselves back up. Again, sweeping that left leg back behind you. Rolling that hip out by bending your knee, drawing some circles with it. Bringing that left foot back down to the mat and sinking down into a wide-legged child's pose here. So sweeping those knees out to the side, letting your belly hang back in between them, just like how we started class. And breathing here. Maybe you turn your palms up to heaven as a sign of just surrender. God, I ask that you would help us be authentic followers of you, Jesus. That we wouldn't be caught trying to be somebody else. That we wouldn't be caught striving after this better version of ourselves, or thinking that if we just had this, or if we just got this figured out, then you would love us more. Then life would be better. Then the work would be easier. God, help us see that you are here with us, loving us, working in and through us right now. Help us to live with our masks off, but our face shining because of the love of your presence. In your Son's name, amen. Thank you for practicing with me, friends. I will see you back on your mat soon.